Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Lunchtime Linkup Series, where we bring on members of the DivInc community to talk about how we're impacting the tech ecosystem with diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility as our guide. I'm your host, Sharice Luter. I'm the marketing director here at DivInc, and we are in the lead up to Sports Tech Demo Day on June 30th here at the Ion in Houston. And we're in our finale episode of our Meet the Founder series, where we're having all the founders from this current cohort from our spring 2022 cohort for Sports Tech come on and talk about their story and their companies. So today we have the founders of Skinz, Clay and RaShaun, and I'm going to let them do their own introduction. So I'll throw it to you, Clay. You get us started.
Thank you so much, Sharice. Glad to be here. My name is Clay Koenig. I am from Lakeland, Florida. I'm 22 years old, and I'm very excited, to be a part of this community.
Yeah, my name is RaShaun Brown. I'm from Ohio. Originally moved to Texas 4 years ago to work for Texas A&M, who I still work for now. But I'm glad to be a part of the DivInc program, and it's been a pleasure working with you all, getting to know you all, and helping us take our company to the next level.
Fantastic. Well, I think let's start with Skinz. Let's hear a little bit about what it is, and for our community that isn't aware, and what kind of problem you're solving. And yeah, let's have Clay start us off.
Definitely. So Skinz, essentially, we allow fans to protect their phone with passion. Our tempered glass screen protectors are branded with their favorite logo, team, any saying, and it disappears on the activation of your phone, so it doesn't disrupt your display or anything.
Yeah, and what we do with that product is we marry that market with the licensing and IP market. So think of brands such as sports that are massive sports brands. Think of brands like Disney, Marvel, etc. We marry those with this new market opportunity to create a new market category for screen protection.
So you just named a lot of companies that I think people would dream about being in the same room with, much less the idea of being able to forge a partnership with. So, I mean, my first immediate question is, how did y'all do that? How?
I'll let Clay start it. It's actually a funny story.
So it goes back a long way. So I started in 2018 with this originally, and didn't know Sean at the time. We connected in early 2020 through a mutual connection, Maurice Claret, who connected us. And in 2020, we became essentially brothers, from the start. And, Sean is a sports business licensing guru, as I would say. He knows everybody in the sports world and licensing world. So I don't know, it was like a dream come true for me. I was the product guy, and I connected with Sean, and he's like, I got this. He kind of like took me under his wing from the start, and here we are today.
Yeah, and with that, I had another company, and at the time I was in another accelerator program focused on that company, and Clay had reached out originally, and I said, yeah, no, I don't have the time to deal with this right now. But obviously going through that program, working towards my business acumen and just building the foundation, understanding how things like this work was something that was crucial, that I think I needed to go through that process to be ready for a company such as this. So as going through the process, I built a lot of connections, in sports, in licensing, and that space. So when I was able to go back to Clay, I think it was the end of November of 2020, I connected back with Clay on Twitter. I DM'd him because I deleted his number on my phone. So I DM'd him and said, hey, Clay, I think we can do this. So within about 2 weeks, we had a meeting with Fanatics, and we were licensed in the NBA, NCAA, MLB, and NBA instantly.
How did y'all approach those kinds of meetings? I mean, you said you kind of already built some relationships with them, but still you had to get in front of them and talk to them and really, convince them to move forward with you. What are the keys? Give us
the I can start that a little bit. I think, the biggest key is, number one, having a really cool product. That helped us a ton. Number two, COVID helped us a lot. People weren't in the office, they were at home. They're willing to take calls, extra meetings. They're just like, oh, like, who's got 30 minutes? Everyone was at home. And when Sean like made a couple calls or some emails, people were like, for sure, we'll sit down, we'll give you 30 minutes, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that's exactly how it worked. I was in a meeting with the CLC, and then I just had a sidebar conversation with the VP, Dave Kirkpatrick. I said, "Hey, I have another cool product that I want you to see," and we stayed on Zoom, and he, was very receptive to it and said, "Hey, I got you guys. Here are two companies, and I'll set it up for you guys to just run with." So it was that easy.
So, I mean, dream scenario, pretty much.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would imagine, much like the founder who is dealing with a lot of pushback trying to forge these kind of partnerships, there are other problems that come with early success.
Mm-hmm.
And success that happens, I wouldn't say overnight, but this is pretty much the closest to overnight you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of challenges did y'all experience with this early success and moving into like this speedy growth?
Yeah, I would say, early, like just trying to get into the market, you kind of you don't understand the landscape of like CPG, licensing, royalty, fulfillment, a lot of these different things. So we're jumping, at the first opportunity that we had without really vetting it because we didn't have anything to compare it to, right? So kind of looking at that, I would say just one, it made it hard not understanding pricing and how that works from Fanatics in and those EDI integrations and the distribution channels. So not really being able to establish our own business model at first. We had to kind of work through a third party to establish that business model, which still we weren't learning that much those first couple of months. So as we were able to take a step back and really start to connect with other people in the licensing world, we were able to kind of garner some of that leverage back where we were able to kind of take control of our company. So at first it would be, having licenses and going through that process, you're just at the whims and wishes of someone else. So we were able to kind of just sit back and learn, I guess, per se, right there in the beginning. And then once we started talking to other people to realize how to do it and how to strategize, we were able to kind of pull ourselves out of that hole to kind of accelerate our growth where we are now.
Okay, I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to add.
Sean literally said that perfectly. We were going like a million miles. It was so much information and a lot of things were happening so fast, and we were just like whoa, like we got to take a step back. We got to figure out what's actually going on. And like I wouldn't say like we've learned the system or the game, but it's like it took us a minute, to like ground ourselves, and be like, okay, we've learned the system. Now where do we want to go? And this past year has been pivotal for us. That first year we really learned everything that we could, and like once we started in January of this year, really like we've really gone to the moon with it.
You said this year has been since January. What big things DivInc, of course. We'll get into that in a second. But what are some of the big things that have happened this year that you're referring to?
So the major thing is we launched NFL, and that took a long time. That was a long time in the making. But we started with our first 10 NFL teams, and we saw a lot of like early success and traction where we were just like, okay, we got to double down on what we're doing, and try and bring this thing to the moon.
Yeah, and with the NFL, with that traction, I mean, also that's no marketing or retail behind it. That's just word of mouth, and we saw tremendous sales. We saw different teams becoming most popular, and that just showed us that hey, there is a space for this. And one of our biggest partners, Keyscaper, he was just like, wow, I didn't think it would take off like this. So just having that type of introduction to the market and seeing people receptive to the product and wanting the product, that really kind of also navigated us like, hey, we need to maximize these leagues. We really need to take advantage. And we also need to look at other ways to expand past sports because people are passionate about many different things. So from there, it's just like the NFL really showed us that people want these products. They care about customized products, and they care about things that, are extensions of them and the brands that they love.
So you realize y'all were at the right place, right time, and the right people. Pretty much.
Exactly. I mean, it couldn't.
Yeah.
it couldn't happen, in better. I mean, I tell Clay all the time that synchronicity is just the way everything happened. It was just like a line for us to really hit it the way that we did.
What's your actual personal journey been like with this immediate success and growing success? What are the things that you've had to change or pivot or adjust about your own personal self in order to meet this challenge?
Yeah, I'll start here because my journey would be a little bit different from Clay's. Because when I met Clay, he was in college, right? I had a full-time job, still have a full-time job at Texas A&M. So just balancing the workload, right? At first, it's kind of just like, oh, you're just chasing your dream after work, and then boom, you're in these big meetings, you're managing these different things, you're going through these different things. So the biggest thing was just to, I would just say, like, always looking to, acquire knowledge from other people, really reaching out to a lot of people that have been through this process, and really just kind of harnessing into people who are experienced in our field. I mean, in our field of our business that we weren't that experienced in. And that's really helped us and also alleviated the pressure on me a little bit as I'm trying to, go from full-time job to full-time entrepreneur, which has been, a hassle in its own. But that would be the biggest thing I would say, was balancing career and what I love and what I was passionate about, but then also looking at this major opportunity that we had in us to really do something that hasn't been done in both our lives and change the trajectory of our lives and our family's lives by chasing something that we see could really take off in the industry.
And Clay?
Yeah, my story is a little different. When I first started this, I actually started in high school. So I was like young kid, hustling, entrepreneur, just like trying to make money. That was like the original thing. And then, when I started applying logos, like, I'm a massive Florida Gator fan. So that was like the first one I ever made. And meshing the two things that, like, I love doing, like being an entrepreneur, making money, and like sports. What's better than that, right? I was mainly just hustling, and it's hard to describe, but like going from like starting, like product engineering, designing, development, to like actually scaling and like bringing a product to market, and learning the licensing world, like, it has been insane for me. You know, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just been like a big like a knowledge boom for me. And I went from literally just making screens like in my parents' laundry room to like now we have hundreds of thousands of SKUs, different designs, different phone models, and just learning how to manage all that and shift like my mindset of business from like, small entrepreneur to like, hey, we are now selling like a product that's on the national stage, and hopefully to be the worldwide stage in the next couple months. That has been like one of the biggest things for me.
How quickly it happened for y'all is kind of mind-boggling, but congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm wondering, what brought you to DivInc? I mean, let's be honest, y'all are doing pretty good, but what brought you to DivInc? What made you think DivInc was the next step for you?
I mean, just seeking out, more knowledge, right? And that was something that, I always talked to Clay about. I was like, hey, I know we're running here, but I really want to take a step back and walk so we don't have to get too far ahead and have to come back, which is, building our foundation. So just, hearing about what you guys were doing, hearing about, what Preston was building, and then, talking to Ashley, who, ultimately became an advisor of our company, his passion, just Ashley, just how he came off to me, I was just like, man, I'll run through a wall for this guy. But then, from our conversations, he also knew that we were eager to learn and that, we were coachable. So from there, Ashley, told us that this was coming. This was something in the works. And I said, you know what, Ashley, we want to be a part of it. And we think that what we have in the tech space and how it aligns in sports and what you guys are building in Houston and within DivInc, we think that we can be a good asset to that, but also grow as far as that with that as well.
It was a little different for me, I'll tell you that, because I got a phone call from Sean. He's like, hey, you ready to go back to school? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, the next 12 weeks up here, he's like, 3 months. He's like, you'll learn more doing this program than you ever did in your 4-year degree. And he wasn't lying.
That's nice to hear. All right. Okay. Comparable to 4-year degree. It's gone on the website. What's been some big takeaways or even maybe some big pivots that y'all have done that y'all have had to execute during the program?
You going, Coach?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest takeaway from the program is like the scalability of a business. Where I come from, it's like local, small town, like sell farmers market type thing, maybe regional. And then I come out here to Houston and it's like, hey, we like the world is, open. It's massive. There's tons of funding. We're learning startup world. That has been like the number one thing I've learned like from DivInc is just like how, businesses operate, in the startup world space. But as far as big pivots go through the program, we haven't had to do anything major like some other companies that I've seen. Mostly because we had a lot going for us, before we came in. But just using the resources, from like connections, other people, to try and leverage that to obtain new licenses or like, move into new markets. We've leveraged some of those channels, and I think, I don't know, some of it we can't announce, but we have some really cool things in the works.
Yeah, and to piggyback on Clay, I would just say just the hungerness and the passion of other founders, right? Like you're in those rooms, you have those conversations, you talk, to those men and women, that are, to the left and right of you, and they're just as passionate and they're also skilled and knowledgeable in different things, which you can take and you can learn from. So, I mean, I just think, talking to Dustin Cardio, I mean, like that guy's passion is off the charts, and and that resonated with Clay, and I was like, Clay, if we had him on our team, we tried to pull him away from cardio. We would go to the moon. But just meeting a lot of those people, I tell Clay all the time, like, they're dogs, they're hungry, and it just comes off. And I think that just being in a room with that many people with the same passion, it just rubs off on you where you can't come with anything less. But as far as major pivots, I would just say just from a business standpoint, instead of just looking at it from just narrow-minded, I guess we looked at it more holistically of like, how can we really grow this market? How can we really scale this market? And how can we look at it as a global play just like a local national play? And that's from talking to, the guys at Mercury and just looking at multiples and different things that we weren't privy to before, just learning how those things work and how we can really scale our company. And like Clay said, utilizing the resources and a lot of other things. But the biggest thing with the program is just the resources and the people. People are so important, especially going through the same journey as you.
I'm glad you bring that up because I mean, you all know that we provide, the ways, the skills to build your business acumen, but it's the networks that we help you get connected with that are huge, and I would argue are just as long-lasting impact on your company. And you mentioned one of our premier partners in Houston, Mercury, and the other venture firms that we work directly with, and then of course the mentors and the workshop facilitators. So it's good to hear that part, that resource that we provide is making just as much impact as the business teachings that are going on with the workshop. So that's good to hear. So I want to hear more about your interactions with your fellow cohort members. And I say all the time that we're very intentional about how we build our cohort to make sure that it's a collaborative space and it's a space where everyone feels like no one has a monopoly of the information in the room. Everybody brings their experience and everybody can share. And what kind of experiences have you had either sharing with or receiving support from your fellow cohort members?
Yeah, I would start with that. I would say just like from the first day, right, where you listen to everyone's businesses, this is the first time that we get to hear about it. We're just like, wow, like we're in different things, but we're kind of doing similar things, right? So like, sitting right next to me with the guys at Brave, instantly I was able to send an email introduction for those guys that meet with Texas A&M, and they were able to send us some connections. And just working with Dustin over LSN as well. Like we were just in a similar space. Obviously, we were in pro and collegiate space, and he's in the high school space. But kind of just like being able to tell him what's going on in those two spaces, and kind of also introduce him to our network, and he do the same. There's been partnerships that's already been formed for Dustin LSN and with Skinz with him. So just, like Ashley said in the beginning, like he was strategic about, the companies that were put together. But just the knowledge that we were able to bring, though, were more so the partnership and the licensing piece, where we think a lot of people in the cohort didn't know a lot of that information or were seeking those, that we were able to be a resource in that capacity.
Yeah, Sean hit on the business perspective super, super well. I want to go kind of more on like that personal perspective. It
Yeah.
was real, yeah, we're in a room with like all these different entrepreneurs from, different backgrounds, different experiences, different companies, but we were all together, and it's like, it's another entrepreneur like sharing a similar journey, right? Like we all go through, similar problems, and when you're sitting in that room, talking, it's like everyone's experiencing kind of like similar things and like how to get over some of those humps, like personally as an entrepreneur, we kind of all talk through and just like, different methods on, how to go forward and stuff. And it was really cool because I don't have access to a lot of that stuff, where I'm at. It's just like, I know a couple entrepreneurs, but nothing to this scale.
And it sounds like it kind of freed you up to think beyond where you even had placed limitations, because I'm sure you have a larger vision for where your company could go, but here are these other people that are saying, oh, but consider this and think about this, and bringing you maybe to a place that you would eventually have gotten to, but did it faster. It's an accelerator. It's there.
It accelerated us a little bit.
So we're leading up into demo day on June 30th. I know that y'all are heads down getting prepared for being presenting to all of our community here in Houston, and of course streaming online as well. And I'm wondering for y'all, other than pitch practicing, which I see all the time, y'all are in the midst of that. What are you doing to get your head in the game for demo day and anything and the investor meetings and everything like that?
Yeah, well, demo day, we're practicing and leaning on Brooke and Amanda a lot. But as far as like that is also like we have to get ready for that, but we're also curating pitches for different investors and having those meetings. And as we get to the end of our round, our seed round, it's been so crazy, but at the same time it's fun. But then when you look at kind of like an investor pitch compared to like our pitch at demo day, it's kind of different. So trying to kind of pull that together and pull the focus there has been just, in a world of its own, but it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, lots of preparation, going through the deck, lots of changes that, we've done to kind of curate it to demo day. And we got a couple special announcements, which are going to be really cool. So it's going to be a really fun day, I'll tell you that.
Anything y'all can share with us right now? I understand if you've got to wait till Thursday, but any big things that are coming down the pipeline that we can know about?
Yeah, I would say that we just locked up one of our, biggest investments from, Abu Empire out of New Mexico, and Wheelhouse out of California, Los Angeles. And I mean, we've added 2 powerhouse advisors to the company within the past month. Michelle McCone, who was former VP of consumer products at the NFL and Hasbro, and Wayne Pfeiffer, who actually just left Apple. He actually was the director of worldwide mobile accessories and retail, and he just joined our company in a kind of dual advisor business development capacity to help us, look into scaling into retail, which is going to be extremely fun as we get into Q3 and Q4.
I mean, no big deal,
I mean, you take your highs the same way you take your lows when you're a founder. It's kind of just been fun, but I'm just like, hey, we got to hit the ground running.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think as we're closing out, I would love for y'all to share some things that founders who haven't gotten to this place where, I mean, y'all are in a level of success that a lot of people haven't gotten to yet, or they're aspiring to right now. I would love to hear your thoughts on, is there anything that you'd like to share with them? Anything that they should be bearing in mind as they're growing their company, or if they're at that tipping point and about to, really start taking off? Any words of wisdom, pearls of wisdom you'd like to share?
Yeah, from my perspective, just keep going. Don't stop. That is like, a lot of people say that in entrepreneurship, and it's like, I don't know, like Sean said, you take it with your highs and lows, but you just got to keep going day by day, keep grinding it out and talk with people, network, because they might know someone that you don't, Like I didn't know anyone in the sports space, and I drove 8 hours to a podcast event that changed my life, technically, and I'm sitting here today because of that. So that's my piece.
Yeah, and to add on to Clay, I would just say, go through the process. That things may not go your way, or things may not happen when you want them to happen, but you learn so much through the process that prepares you for what's going to happen next, ultimately, right? So I kind of look at it with the end in mind, but still go through the process to get there, and you're more appreciative of it. For instance, if I didn't go through the process of trying to get into an accelerator, my first business, Apple killing it, those different things, and I didn't meet the people that I met, I wouldn't have, met Clay, and I wouldn't have had the resources and the network for us to be where we are with Skinz. But again, that was just through us being persistent, going through the process, and not letting things defeat us, even though as a founder, a lot of things can be defeating. You'll get the no's, you'll hear a lot of no's, but all you need to hear is one yes, and that one yes can really change your life. I mean, it changed our lives in an instant. It took 2 weeks, and we had a yes from one of the biggest, sports license retailers in the country.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, and thank you for slicing out some time in a very busy week for you all. And I'm like I said, congratulations for your success. Clay, you mentioned that you went to University of Florida. I'm a Miami Hurricane, so we'll have to talk about that a little later. But I just wanted
Hey,
to.
well, we just got approved for Miami's licensing, so we'll
Oh,
have
now
some
I can
Miami
get
strings in
one. Okay, great. Well, now I need to get on Fanatic and take care of repping my school too. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for, like I said, thank you for slicing out time in a very busy week. Like I said, demo day is this Thursday, June 30th, here at the Ion in Houston, where you will be able to hear more from RaShaun Clay and as well as the rest of our Cohort 10, our 5G Sports Tech cohort, done in partnership with Verizon. And that's it for our Meet the Founder series this time around. We'll have more coming up in our upcoming accelerators. And have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time. Bye.